BassEdge Radio. You're listening to The Edge, everything bass fishing, coming to you worldwide from Megaware KeelGuard Studios.
Here we go, boo, boo, boo. Another episode of BassEdge Radio, Aaron. Episode number 360, right here on September 15th. Still right here in South Texas, Aaron, carrying over from our last episode. Still not quite fall yet, but we're waiting for it to arrive.
Well, true. The only thing that gives the resemblance of fall is football is being played. So I guess that is one of the saving grace for all the football fans that are out there. And, you know, Kurt, I must mention, as always, Megaware KeelGuard, long-term sponsors, long-term partners. Now's the kind of the time of year, right, of ordering boats. And I know some of the supply chains are a little strained right now, but when it comes to adding
heavily strained, right?
When it comes to adding accessories, it seems like Megaware KeelGuard is in great shape concerning the keel protector, the flex step, battery guard, all of those great products that they have put out there for personal watercraft boats. Make sure to visit them at keelguard.com.
You bet, Aaron. I got to throw this in here. We got to talk a little bit about an event you've got coming up very shortly. I think you're leaving next week, or the event's next week, actually. And so you'll be leaving just a few days. Super Tournament, Lake of the Ozarks, final MLF DFL event for you this year. Sitting in good position, you know, right in the 30 range, and you got to hold your ground and get into that regional, which isn't far from your house either, over there at Lake Norfolk. But let's talk bass fishing strategy. What do you see going down right now, mid-September? Getting into that later. Y'all have had a little bit cooler weather than we've had here in South Texas. So what are you thinking?
Yeah, so obviously Lake of the Ozarks full of docks. I will be concentrating on certain docks that have a hard bottom. Okay, so that is done or accomplished, I guess, by a lot of Google Maps down through the years. A lot of just, I do have quite a bit of familiarity on that body of water. I do really like that body of water. I can promise you I will have a jig in my hand. And, I'm not looking for a lot of bites that time of year, Kurt. As we know, September can be pretty tough. But normally the ones that you're catching in the docks that I'll be focusing on, I'll be looking for the big gizzard shad, right? Because that's where the bigger bass are going to be eating those bigger shad. I will definitely be having a top water in my hand from a buzzbait to try and skip those behind those cables on the docks, as well as a whopper plopper, things like that. But the jig, those two things, and then also be mixing in a little bit of potentially, because sometimes you can catch those fish out deeper. There's a lot of submerged brush, right, that dock owners and anglers fish. So sometimes I'll be, if the sun hasn't really, positioned them on the docks yet, then I'll be maybe fishing out a little bit deeper. But time will tell. But I can tell you those are going to be my strategies, and my strategy is, I really want to make that cut on that final day and then go for the win. I do like fishing Lake of the Ozarks this time of year.
Yeah. So lots going on there, a lot of great options. And because it's this transitional time of year, both can play. Got some great look at, how some fall fishing goes down with a Toyota series they had there. In the last couple of years, they had a couple really big events there. And all the big events provide great media exposure, really kind of understand more of how some of these fisheries go down from my perspective, because, obviously I don't know Lake of the Ozarks that well, but, can read about it and kind of understand. What about the river aspect, Aaron? I know that it can be a long run up the river versus main lake. Does current play a role in Lake of the Ozarks? And, you get that fall migratory shad movement. I'm not sure, how that's going to be, working, obviously, as the tournament starts here in just a week. But what's your thought process on how to move throughout the lake in working those migration patterns?
Yeah, current does play a role. The river is certainly an area that draws a lot of anglers to it, and rightfully so, because of what you're talking about. Remember the way the Lake of the Ozarks set up. You have Truman that drains into kind of all off the Osage River. So you have Truman that's a flood control. Lake of the Ozarks is an Ameren power lake that does not fluctuate nearly as much which is per se like a Corps of Engineers lake. But that current generation, Lake of the Ozarks, is a massive, massive body of water. And so you get up there and you will find very quickly of where those fish will be holding. Are they going to be in the very backs of the pockets? Believe it or not, that time of year, you can see some that are in the very back end, right? In that shallow water. But everything of what we talk all the time, and you hear the pros like yourself, the good guys, talk about, you got to let the bait tell you where the fish are, because you find the bait. And at that time of year, as you know, you can pull into a cove and there's just acres of bait. But I'm looking for that specific gizzard shad. So I will be checking some on the rivers, but also I do like to get a little bit away from the competition. So it wouldn't surprise me if I'm not spending some of my practice time down closer to the dam.
Right. Less pressure. Well, hey, look, it's going to be fun to watch, man. Wishing you the best of luck making that region. I know you already made your reservation over there at North.
Yeah, I did.
That's great, man. That's part of that mental attitude, though, right? You're confident, looking forward to making that regional and having a great event here at Lake of the Ozarks. And
well, if not, Kurt, I figured I could VRBO at my reservation and make some money on that way to another angler
there
to qualify. So
that's funny. We can all check this out. Let's follow Aaron's progress, mlffishing.com. Aaron, great luck to you over there in that event. But y'all stay tuned. We've got a protecttheharvest.com tackle tip right here with BassEdge Radio. This episode is protecttheharvest.com tackle tip with Bass Fishing Hall of Famer Denny Brower.
I think one of the things that confuses a lot of anglers is what rod and reel do you use? And is it worth all that money to buy the high-end stuff, or can you get by with a lower-priced rod and reel? And I look at my situation. Obviously, I'm with Lew's Fishing, so I've got a lot of choices. I've got a lot of decisions to make when I go to pick out what rods and reels I want to go with and what are the advantages. First, look at the money you have to spend. A lot of this stuff is very, very expensive, but it's like anything. You really get what you pay for. And if you fish a bunch like I do, you want the best you can possibly get. So I go with the top end. I go with the Lew's Pro TI rods and the reels. They are expensive, but what are the advantages? More casting distance with the reels. They're smoother. Man, if a fish breaks way out there, I don't have an issue reaching that fish. The rods, they're lighter. They're more sensitive. You can fish longer without the arm fatigue. So you've got a lot of advantages, but all grades of rods and reels that they put out on the market right now are very satisfactory. So look at your budget. Let that make the final decision for you. Some of this mid-grade stuff is excellent. Now, if I was an angler that just had to pick out one rod and reel, man, I would certainly get the highest end you could possibly get. I'd go with that Pro TI. You would not regret it.
Great tip, Denny. Thanks for spreading the knowledge. Brought to you by protecttheharvest.com.
First by land and now by sea. For years, Lucas Oil has been a staple in high-performance vehicles on both the road and track. Now, from the makers of Lucas Oil comes Lucas Marine products, specifically engineered for marine applications. Protect and lubricate your marine inboard, outboard, or high-performance boat with Lucas Marine Engine Oil or Lucas Synthetic-Based Oil. Learn more about the complete line of Lucas Oil and marine products. Visit lucasoil.com.
Nitro Performance Bass Boats. Get pro-level performance with the Nitro Z18, the official boat of Major League Fishing. The Z18, with its nimble handling and versatility, sports many of the features in the larger boats in the line, like a Guardian Live Well, a heavily insulated cooler, dual 8-foot rod storage, and our smooth and fast NVT hull. Every Nitro boat is laid out to do one thing very well: catch fish. Enormous front decks, up to 45 square feet on the Z21, allow maximum mobility when battling unruly bass, and feature low-profile gunnels for ease of skipping, pitching, flipping, or landing fish. Nitro Performance Bass Boats, pure fishing machines.
Kurt, even though, we keep talking about the heat, and obviously that's just the time of the year that we're in, but I'm sitting here staring at my painting, Feeding Frenzy of beautiful giant smallmouth, and it makes me think about what is to come and the fall fishing that's going into a feeding frenzy, right? And of course, I'm talking about the artwork from Wild Wings.
Yeah, man. You know what's cool about this whole Wild Wings thing is we've got a spot out there on the internet with Wild Wings. That's probably the coolest thing. It's like both of us showing our artwork. Mine's tight to cover. It's got a beautiful largemouth. It's actually a super cool deal, man. It's got, a Morning Dawn Texas rig worm, and love looking at it, especially when I'm not out on the water. It keeps me thinking about being on the water.
No doubt. Unlike your fans only page, BassEdge Nation can actually save money on our spot on the website.
I heard that fans only is going clean.
Yeah.
I heard that.
Yep.
I think they're going clean. So I have more use for it now even than before, right?
Yeah, it's going to cut into your income significantly, but hey, so we digress.
Well, hey, look, talking about income, check out Wild Wings. You can save a few bucks, 10% discount on any Wild Wings art. They got a lot of great outdoor art, so make sure you go check it out. If you just Google Wild Wings BassEdge, it'll actually hit you right on to the landing page where you'll see Aaron's beautiful mugshot with his feeding frenzy photo. And you'll see my mugshot there as well. But great place to go in, check out great art collections for your office, home. They've got everything, Aaron, as you know, bed, bath, dining, kitchen, apparel, all kinds of stuff. So be sure to check it out. Google up wildwings.com or just Wild Wings Bass Edge. Hit you on that 10% off landing page.
Yeah, Kurt, some other exciting news. I don't know if you remember, but we've been talking about all the supply chains and kind of how that may or may not impact the fishing industry. But one thing I'm excited about, got to order the new Nitro Z21, the new model that's coming out. So very, very excited to get my hands on that.
One cool thing about the Nitros that I'm always jealous about, I love my Ranger. It's a great boat. It holds 50 gallons of gas. Dude, Nitro, I think it's 65, 68 gallons. Dude, you fill that thing up, you go fishing like 3, 4, 5 times without ever hitting the gas station.
That's right. And, the other thing with the new design and the new lid apparatus, the storage is kind of improved, but also pretty excited because they seem to be doing fairly decent with their delivery status. It's still going to take a little bit longer because they're at the mercy of engines and the other components, but it at least sounds like it's not going to be nearly as long as what I was preparing for. So appreciate that as well.
Yeah, a lot of other companies out there struggling on delivery times. White River Marine Group, Nitro specifically, not having as many of those issues. So the used boat market, out of control, Aaron.
Oh my gosh.
You're paying basically any used boat, 1-year-old boat, about $70K, low 70s. Just the premium out there is more than ever. And when you get that new boat, because a lot of other boat manufacturers struggle, Aaron, you're going to be in a great spot because you're going to get your Nitro probably sooner than anybody ever would get a boat that's ordering from another manufacturer, any White River boat for that matter, and just put you in a great spot. The buying power of Bass Pro, Johnny Morris, the whole White River system is pretty significant. It holds a lot of clout in the industry.
Yeah, no doubt. And, certainly there are other manufacturers and vendors are going to cater to, volumes of business. And going kind of back to that used boat market, it just interestingly, it's funny you bring that up. Just last night I got a call from a friend that they were setting in a cove, right, for a little team derby, and it was a father and son, and they were talking about, hey, we need to get home and get this boat cleaned up so that we can get ready to sell it, pre-takeoff, nothing else to talk about, sitting there in the pitch black dark. Well, another boat happens to hear him, said, hey, are you selling that boat? And I'm like, yeah, well, how much do you want for it? And I said, well, we were going to list it for this. And he's like, sold. And it's just insane, like what you were talking about. But that's good, I guess, good for the industry, and hopefully that continues to put more people on the water.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's nothing else that this whole getting ready to come up on 24 months has done for the fishing industry is create more participation, more demand for outdoors enthusiasts, and just more people in general moving into the outdoor segment. So it's great being with Hayabusa, like many other industry companies. Just record sales over the last 18, 24 months. So it's just great wealth and prosper.
Yeah. And speaking of moving, where are we moving to next, Kurt?
We are moving into a Lucas Oil Angler Spotlight. We got another Angler of the Year. Yeah, you think, well, we just did an episode with the Bassmaster Elite Series Angler of the Year 15 days ago. Well, now we're doing another one, but it's with a different Angler of the Year. Y'all stay tuned to find out who and what and how we're doing that. Bass Edge Radio. We'll be right back in a moment.
I am BASS Elite Series Angler Matt Airy.
This is Bassmaster Elite Series Pro Bill Owen.
This is BASS Elite Series Angler KJ Queen.
This is BASS Elite Series Pro Jake Whitaker.
I am Pro Angler Brett Height. Stay tuned for more BassEdge Radio.
You know the importance of protecting your investments, so why use anything else other than the original and toughest DIY keel protector for your boat? Megaware KeelGuard. Grinding sand, abrasive rocks, and concrete ramps are no match for our exclusive contoured edge and patented technology. Megaware KeelGuard keel protectors are made tough and made to stick. Their do-it-yourself installation takes less than an hour, providing the longest-lasting, most dependable keel protection for your boat, guaranteed for life. Developed specifically by boat builders offering the best keel protection in the industry. Also from Megaware KeelGuard, Skeg Guard, Flex Step Pro, and Pontoon Guard. So give your boat the performance edge. Put on the protection the pros pick. Megaware KeelGuard.
Aaron, as always, stoked to have another extremely successful angler on another episode in the Lucas Oil Angler Spotlight. You know, Alabama is known to be a hot spot for professional fishing. Not just a state with a lot of great fisheries, but a state with a lot of exceptional bass fishermen. This angler has been improving this over and over again. I mean, he's on the A list. We look forward to this. Welcome to the show, BASS Elite Series Rookie of the Year, Josh Stracner. Thanks for hanging with today, Josh.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Well, Josh, you stepped into the 2021 Elite Series with a rookie class that, you know, if there was such a thing in bass fishing, it's kind of the MIT class of bass fishermen. You got lots of attention before the season even started. You know, curious to know, can you elaborate a little bit, just kind of your expectations as you were heading into the season and how you felt kind of once you hoisted that Rookie of the Year trophy over your head?
Yeah, you know, as far as expectations, I really didn't know what to expect, to be honest. I kind of knew a couple of guys that fished Elite, Scott Canterbury, Matt Hare, and they kind of live here locally. I've known them for a while. So I kind of talked to them a little bit, you know, about what to expect. And so I just kind of went with it. I guess I didn't think about it a whole lot, you know, until when we showed up down at St. John's River, that's when it kind of hit me what I was doing, you know.
Right.
It's like I'm about to fish the Elite Series and pretty much don't have a job. This is going to be my job for the next little while, you know. So it was a lot to take in, but throughout the year, you know, there really was a lot of ups and downs. I had a couple of, you know, really bad tournaments and a couple of pretty decent ones. And in the end, you know, I wasn't even thinking about the Rookie of the Year deal. I just wanted to make the Classic. That was goal number one from the beginning of the season. And just getting that Rookie of the Year at the very last tournament was just a bonus, really.
Definitely icing on the cake right there. It was interesting to watch that final event. You had three of you kind of in that potential position to take the Rookie of the Year trophy. And, man, things just lined up for you, and you did your job, basically. You know, some of the other anglers struggled a little bit, and just going through those last couple of events, man, you were able to hoist that trophy. It was great to see. You know, Josh, diving into where you came from and looking at your past, 2020 was a hugely successful year for you, right? You qualify for both the Elite Series and the MLF Pro Circuit. Toyota event there on Eufaula, you took the W. The Open Division and Toyota Division, respectively, two tough divisions, no matter where you're at, because you're fishing against, you know, all the great locals. We hear that all the time, but, you know, bigger fields, all that kind of great stuff. What went into the process of you preparing to do well in those AAA events in order to pave your way to competing at the national level?
You know, it had a lot to do with just timing. I had been fishing good the last 2-3 years prior to last year. So
let me expound on that real quick. When Josh says he's been fishing good, Aaron, Josh won the Bama BFL, the full AOY in 2018 and 2019. So I wouldn't say fishing well, Josh. Maybe you've been fishing exceptionally well for the last several years, right? I mean, that's pretty impressive.
It's been
pretty
good.
impressive.
The last few years has been real good. I've been fortunate. I couldn't just put my finger on or tell you exactly, you know, why. I think probably the biggest factor in that is the last 2 or 3 years I've been fishing more than I ever have. Every weekend, every Saturday, every Sunday, didn't miss anything. I just fished every tournament I could get in. And I think, you know, just staying in the tournament as much as you can, you just get a different mindset the more you fish. And, I was like, I fished the opens 4, 5, 6 years ago and didn't do any good, and I knew I wasn't ready then. So after doing good in the BFLs, I was like, I'm going to try the opens just one more time, just see how it goes. And I wound up getting in Toyotas too. And so I think just having the confidence coming off a couple of real good years fishing locally, and of course I had a little money in my pocket, so I wasn't just spending everything I had just trying to fish them. I learned that the first time I fished the opens. If you're fishing them just trying to worry about getting a check, you probably not a good idea for you to be out there. So last year I fished them a little bit more confident and just ended up right. It's perfect timing, really.
So did you feel like from a strategic level, did you put in maybe more practice? Did you just know the lakes a little bit better from, your past year's experiences? Or did you target fish differently? Or is there some strength that you were able to put in that just kind of rolled throughout those couple years, including this year with your Rookie of the Year? Can you pinpoint that, or you think it was just more of a mental state?
I think it was almost 100% mental, because I'm pretty sure last year in the opens, all 4 opens, had 4 in that division.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I hadn't been to any of the lakes. I'm trying to remember. But, they were all in strange lakes. And I
remember you did really good at Cherokee, which isn't a whole lot like many Alabama lakes other than maybe Smith. But where you're from, kind of down in there in that Birmingham area, it's not a whole lot similar to much of what you're fishing down there.
No, that was like going to Mars for me. That was I say that it's kind of ironic. They got some of the rock up there that you see on the shoreline. Some guys call it alien rock.
Right.
Anyway, it was a smallmouth thing, or at least I turned it into a smallmouth tournament for myself. So that was 100% new. And I went up there. I'd get off work on Friday, and I'd pretty much already had my bags and everything packed. I think I went up there twice. Spent the weekend before the tournament started and just rode the lake. Looked at pretty much every inch of it, and just it was mental. And like I said, just having a lot of confidence is so big in this sport. I really didn't realize it. I've heard guys talk about it like Kevin Van Dam and some of these real big name guys talking about how the mental side of fishing is so huge. You hear Rick Clun talk about it all the time, and it's real. Anglers get on runs, mentally, and everything just goes right. And when everything goes wrong, it's almost like you don't know what to do. You're out there lost every day. It's real funny how the fishing world works like that.
Yeah.
I've been on that train lately. This was my worst season ever. I've been doing this since 2006, and this year, just a total catastrophe. And you're right. It's like, the more you look for the answer, the farther away, you get from understanding what the heck's going on, because you're looking for something that's not out there. It's internal, so I completely agree. It's great. Great process.
Kurt, of course, this, and Josh, interestingly, you cannot imagine in the 360 episodes now that we have done of how many times the mental, psychological component comes up from anglers like yourself. And of course, that's why Dr. Jay McNamara, wrote a whole book that we have on BassEdge, and we've sold tons and tons of copies, called The Psychology of Exceptional Fishing, and kind of outlining just when you get in that zone and when that mental shift is made, right? Because it's all about making decisions both on and off the water, which is kind of what I would like to dive a little deeper into with you on. You have obviously traveling at the national level is much different than running kind of the local regional scene. I'd like to hear your thoughts there, but also, certainly that's required adjustments along the way. Like you talked about, you cannot have your mind be thinking about money and making a check to make it to the next tournament. So obviously you made some decisions there. But then finally, do you pre-practice? Do you like to go to a body of water before practice even starts for familiarity, or do you just go in blind? Can you walk us through kind of those decisions and how you attacked being able to remain competitive and ultimately finish, Rookie of the Year? Because you only have one chance to hoist a Rookie of the Year trophy. You can't say that about a Bassmasters Classic or Angler of the Year. So obviously you did something right.
Yeah, as far as swapping over to, just fishing for a living, that's, not having a job, and then your sole income is fishing. You gotta, at least I kind of told myself starting out with that, I'm gonna try to just focus on the fishing and not worry about trying to get that $10,000 check at the end of every tournament. Of course, it was still always on the back of my mind when I was at the whatever lead event I was at, but I try not to let it get to me. as far as just traveling everywhere, it's a lot different. There's just so much more things you have to worry about and think about other than fishing when you come to this level. Little things, stuff like trying to book hotel rooms, figuring out where you're going to stay for a week, how to approach a strange lake. Like went to the St. Johns River. I think it said it's over 100 miles long. And,
yeah, that's a big one.
There's no way, or all these lakes pretty much we went to, there's no way you look at the whole lake in 3 days. So you kind of got to just do every bit of research that you can on past events and watch videos and look at the time of year. And I try to pick out 3 areas for every lake we went to. And so the 3 days of practice, the first 2 days I would go to 2 different areas. And, if I didn't like either one of them, I would go to the third. But hopefully I'd go back after 2 days and say, all right, I'm going to go back to this area that I was in today or the area I was in yesterday and just look at it even more. So every lake was different. I did try to go, I pre-practice, not Cherokee, Fort Loudon. I did go up there. I went to Pickwick. I think that was it.
What's your strategy on the pre-practice? Do you fish a lot in your pre-practice, or you just kind of looking around? You hear some guys, they're just leaving the rods in the rod box and they're just cruising the lake, taking a peek at what kind of covers available and that kind of stuff. Right.
Yeah, that's really all I've done. Really just riding and figuring, just seeing what the lake looks like. Figuring ways to get in different areas, safely. A lot of these lakes we went to that if you're not familiar with them and not paying attention, you could, get hurt or tear your boat up or whatever. So just kind of feeling my way around and very little fishing, mostly scanning, looking at my electronics, looking just for visual stuff. This year we really never did hit a true, offshore ledge fishing or really any kind of offshore until we got up north. So I just felt like all year it was all just bank stuff, so pretty much just looking at the bank and seeing where you want to go. But every lake was different, and pre-practicing helped some. I think it did hurt some too. I've heard people talk about that over the years. Since I think it's 30 days off limits, we have to go 30 days ahead of time. So what fishing you do is probably going to be a waste of time. So it's pretty much just riding around and looking.
Josh, I noticed a small gap in your, you kind of mentioned this earlier, that you fished the opens. I guess it was the early 2000, like 2010, 11, 9, kind of through that stretch. Then you had a kind of a gap, where you didn't even fish a lot of BFLs and stuff in that section of maybe 2012 through 2016. Like to just kind of, bring to light how timing can affect an angler's competitiveness. Ultimately, obviously, you found the right timing since 2018, to really make, a lot of noise in the bass fishing competitive world. And so what was the deal with that time away? Were you just kind of fishing on your own, doing your own thing, not really just competing as much? And what made you decide to kind of move back into the scene from the BFLs and then ultimately the AAA events and then, into the Elite Series?
A lot of that gap you're talking about, a lot of that was I work construction for a living, always have. And I think during that time of my life, I was traveling a lot, working. I was having to live out of town pretty much for work.
Gotcha.
It just made it so hard to fish. At that time we was working a lot of Saturdays, and even when we wasn't, I just having to travel in on Friday nights. Getting back in town, and I kind of lost interest in it. Didn't have the time for it. I still fish, but it was really concentrated just on a couple of lakes, just fishing local team tournaments. So I kind of give up or slowed down on the BFL stuff there for a while, but it's mainly to do with work.
Gotcha. Still kind of honing your craft, though. It's not that you totally set it down, or did you kind of really step away a little bit?
I think I stepped away a little bit. I think there for a couple of years, I felt like I was kind of getting burnt out. I guess it wasn't quite as fun as it was there for a while. But, it only took, a year or two after I really slowed down. I started getting the itch, again. I was like, I want to start getting back in these BFLs. And I think at that time I was kind of staying close to home for work. So I was able to spend more time on the water. That's kind of how it went down.
I think that's one thing that a lot of people or a lot of anglers that, fish recreationally or fish tournaments, it affects them, but they don't know it affects them. And what that effect is success out on the water. If you're catching them, you want to go back and catch more. If you're not catching them that great, all of a sudden there might be something else that comes along in life that you decide to put more attention to. And, you hear all the time about
exactly
professional
right.
anglers and guys like yourself that, have dove all in, obviously the last 4 years, you've been head over heels for it and really putting in time, work, and effort. But the success is what kind of continues your drive, I feel like, for anglers. The hardest thing is when you're not having success, but then kind of staying involved, trying to overcome those valleys. And that can be one of the most difficult things to do, because it's not like Josh has decided to go fish for a living. If he has some struggles, he can't just be like, okay, I'm going to go do something else. Like, dude, you're invested, right? I mean, that, like you say, you had some tough events this year, but pulled through them. How do you deal with those valleys? And do you feel like that's the same kind of situation that you see that I'm referring to?
I think so. You got to learn how to deal with the failures. You hear people talk about success breeds confidence, and it's all true. When you're doing good, you have 2 or 3 good tournaments in a row or a good year. It's real easy to just stay. You want to go every weekend. You feel like you stay on top of things without even trying, But when it comes down to you start having 2 or 3 bad tournaments. I had a couple of bad tournaments this year, and I kind of felt myself slipping mentally. There was even a time or two where I thought, like, hey, if I'm really cut out to be out here with these guys or not, And I think over the years, just getting a little older, I feel like I can work through those thoughts a little better than I did 10 years ago. So I guess it's kind of hard to explain, but just being able to work through the hard times and not let it affect you is bad. And it all just boils down to confidence,
Right. It's not easy to describe, not easy to duplicate either. But y'all,
I'm trying to explain things like that. It's hard to explain.
Absolutely agree. Well, we're going to get into some fishing tips, a little bit easier to explain. Y'all hang tight. We're going to power pole down for a quick break. We're going to be right back with more from BASS Elite Series Rookie of the Year, Josh Stracner. Hang tight. We'll be back in a moment.
Patented in 2000, perfected over years of testing and real-world punishment, the Power Pole is the ultimate shallow water boat positioning tool. Swift. Power Pole deploys in seconds from anywhere in your boat. Virtually silent, Power Pole won't spook wary fish. Secure in strong current or gusting winds in up to 8 feet of water. Engineered to take it with a lifetime unconditional replacement guarantee on the spike. Power Pole. Swift. Silent. Secure. Visit PowerPole.com to find a dealer near you.
BassEdge is presented in part by ProtectTheHarvest.com, returning with BASS Elite Series angler Josh Stracner in the Lucas Oil Angler Spotlight. That's right, Lucas Oil high-performance marine products. Be sure to visit the BassEdge.com store for free shipping on all Lucas products. It works. Josh, let's dial into some late summer fishing tips, as Kurt alluded to just a second ago. Here we are, middle heading into late September. In the South, it's still a late summer with a slow transition into fall, and this can be a tricky time of year. Everybody always says, if you think August is tough, wait around for September because it gets worse. So, fish leaving kind of the deeper brush as bait fish can scatter throughout the water column. You've got the stratification of the oxygen, potential fall turnover coming within that water column, yet have not made kind of that full commitment to the shallows. How do you attack this time of year to have success?
Yeah, this really is a weird time of year. There's kind of some weird techniques that happens this time of year. Of course, I like fishing deep, but this time of year, like you just mentioned, that the deep bite kind of goes away. Maybe like on the Tennessee River kind of lakes where you have a lot of heavy current, you can still catch some deep. But predominantly overall, everything kind of moves back up shallow. And for whatever reason, there's a little deal goes on around here that when the water gets super hot this time of year, low oxygen, some of those fish go back just dirt shallow, less than a foot deep, and you can start catching a few again. It's not real fast and furious. It's actually really random, but you can catch some really big fish doing it. 5 or 6 pounder in a tournament that 13 or 14 pounds of winds. But it seems like this time of year, those fish come from sometimes just dirt shallow kind of deals. And then you can still catch fish out of brush, but it's shallow brush, brush around docks, brush out in front of a dock, or brush up on a shallow river flat. So those two deals, and you also got a schooling factor. This time of year, they'll usually fish just now starting to group up and starting to school out on the river in the mouth of creeks and pockets out on the river. Those are the 3 things that I kind of key in on this time of year.
Josh, Josh, really intriguing on the shallow water deal. I see that also at Lake Amistad. So I think it happens all throughout the country. Those fish sometimes can get spooky. I feel like they're there to eat, but at the same time, long casts seem to be prevalent, to target those fish. What do you see as the best way to target those super shallow fish during this kind of late September timeframe?
I'm always throwing some kind of top water, whether it's a frog, a buzz bait, or just a walking kind of bait. Usually I'll try to fish some of that real dirt shallow stuff like right at daylight. Seems like for that first 30 minutes or an hour, just like it is any other time of year. There's a little bite window then it seems like it doesn't really get kicked back up going until in the middle of the day. I'll go back to some of that just super, super dirt shallow stuff and start throwing a frog, That's probably my number one bait for this time of year, fishing like that, just throwing a frog. Maybe the buzz bait in the mornings, but definitely the frog later in the day.
Is the frog, is that a hollow body or a swimming frog, Josh?
Hollow body. And that's, if there's some vegetation, fish pretty much just open, like just big shallow flats. There's really not a whole lot of cover. I usually like throwing like some kind of walking bait, a vixen or, spooker or something.
Good stuff. No matter what, it seems this time of year, the bite's generally slower. Obviously, spring is where it's at. Later in the fall, when you really start getting some cool downs in the south, for a guy like Aaron, that might be about this time of year, when that weather really starts, start getting that water temp to dip and you really get that larger shad migration moving into the creeks and more fish moving shallower in groups rather than singles, as, it seems like you're discussing here. But it's a slower bite. When you're practicing for an event, just out recreationally fishing, maybe just for a fun weekend day, mentally and strategically, how do you prepare for events that are going to be tough? It's going to be a slow bite. You're really going to have to stay focused when that fishing is tough. But strategically, do you do anything different to prepare to have success when bites are few and far between?
Not really. You just got to tell yourself, or I tell myself, going into the tournament or the tournament morning, that you just got to tell yourself you're not going to get a ton of bites, But if you get the confidence that you're going to catch that super shallow deal like we were talking about, if you do it enough all day, it's usually good for like one big bite. And this time of year, the winning weights are so low, it pretty much boils down to whoever catches the big fish of the tournament usually wins the tournament. So just having that mindset that you really just looking for one big fish. And to me, that's the way to do it, is fishing that real dirt shallow stuff this time of year. And just knowing that at any time of the day, even the last hour or last couple hours of the tournament, you only need one bite. That's what I look for during a tournament this time of year, is one big bite. And just fishing, I actually kind of fish slow in places. I usually try to get in one area, whether it's a creek or just one stretch of river, and I'll actually fish slow, especially with a frog. I'll fish that real shallow stuff. I like throwing it up there and letting it sit a lot of times, especially if you're around any kind of lily pads or grass mats. This time of year, it seems like I just want something sitting, almost like early springtime. It's kind of weird.
Well, Josh, let's chat quickly about, something that's kind of, I guess, thrown out there is the home lake jinx. And I don't want to, pour salt on a wound or bring up a bad moment, but a definite tough tournament this year for you was on a very familiar lake, and that being Neely Henry. I'm hoping we can kind of make this a great educational experience for others. You've had terrific success on Lake Neely Henry in the past, hindsight being 2020. Can you elaborate on what happened there? As I'm sure you expected, right, a good finish, but it turned out into kind of one of your worst.
Yeah, it wound up being the worst. And that's another thing that's going to be hard to explain. Going into that tournament, even though I live about an hour from Neely, I really don't fish it a whole lot. I usually go up there like once a year. We'll have when I fish the BFLs every year, we'd go to Neely once a year. And that's the only time I
did notice. That's why I kind of wanted to ask this question, is because we wanted to put this one on the list when Aaron and I were going through everything. Like, man, he's had some, not necessarily tournament wins that I saw, but I mean, a lot of top 20s and BFLs in there in Alabama. You're talking about guys that are dedicated, just like you are. They're out there trying to kick your butt every weekend. And then I saw that, this tough event, and I was like, Aaron and I wanted to dive into this. So I want to go in there and say, too, we're not trying to pour salt into a wound, but hoping that you can kind of elaborate on that process. I appreciate you diving into this question.
Yeah, the biggest thing with that tournament, I know the lake pretty good, one and the other. Like I said, I'm definitely not a local, but that tournament, I don't know if you remember, we had a bunch of rain, and during practice, I think the last I think it's the last day or maybe the second day of practice. We got like 6 inches of rain.
Yes.
And the water come up like 4 feet in 24 hours. I know that last day of practice, it was flooded seriously. It was way up in the woods.
I remember they considered kind of pushing back the first day or two of the tournament because logs were rolling down the river and all kinds of craziness.
Yeah, they I can't remember if they postponed it, backed it up a day or not. I can't really remember, but I know that there was whole docks floating down the lake. 100-foot tall trees coming down the lake. It was a mess. I've never seen Neely Henry get like that. I've heard about it, but I've just never been there when it happens. And I'd never been to Neely Henry when it was flooded at all. So it was like fishing a brand new lake. So the first day of the tournament, I just caught them flipping in some areas that I've always fished. They were just further up on the bank. But the second day, I think the water had dropped overnight about a foot. And for whatever reason, I had a little area that I was starting in that I thought I could catch 10 or 12 pounds in. Right. So I went there that first day, and that's what I done, caught them pretty quick and left. So I went there the second day, and like the first bite I had, I lost it. I fished around, 10, 15 more minutes and had another bite and hooked it, and it was like a 2.5, 3 pounder and lost it. So that kind of threw my head off a little bit, losing 2 fish right off the bat. And to be honest, after that, I couldn't hardly get a bite. I think I got 2 more bites the rest of the day. And I actually started running around fishing some new stuff, and I just never could get on them. I knew where some areas were that everybody else was fishing. There's a couple of stretches of bank that, they were just boats lined up on. Right. From daylight to weigh in, and I just couldn't make myself get around those. I always try to stay away from the crowds and away from the people. And, it's hard to put my finger on exactly what happened that second day, but somehow I didn't follow what was happening on the lake with the fish and the water. At the time, I thought I was, but looking back on it, I've definitely done things different. I tried to fish the same little area too much. I didn't start jumping around or kind of abandoning what I had found until too late in the second day. By that time, it was, like I said, it was just too late. Didn't have time to go around and find another group of fish.
Yeah, it's always interesting to talk about some of our struggles throughout whatever it is that we're involved in. And it's interesting to try to pinpoint how we would have done something different. Like you said, it was a huge environmental change in that lake compared to what anybody was used to for the most part. But you take guys like Matt Herron and Canterbury, who you mentioned earlier in the show, they've got a lot of experience out there on Neely Henry, and neither of them had great events either. So it seemed tough for a lot of the kind of local guys, and I guess just openness of thought process and maybe just bouncing around a little bit more, because when, like you mentioned, that there's an area of the lake that you've had success in the past, and you try to make that work, especially after you catch 10, 11 pounds day one. Who wouldn't think there's some more there to catch, right?
Yeah, that was just a weird deal. That's a weird tournament. That's, like I said, it's brand new conditions, and at the time I thought I was doing the right thing. And that's a hard thing to do, is trying to recognize when you need to abandon something or when you need to change something up while you're out there on the water. Of course, the day after the tournament, you can always think of things that you could have done, but just making those mental changes out there on the water, if you could ever figure out how to do that confidently every day on the water, man, you'd make $1 million for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
Josh, great part of the show, especially after all the discussion that we've been having about mental and everything that went on this past year, with some great fishing tips as well for fall fishing. But the listener question segment, folks send these in through our social media, website, all that kind of great stuff. And we're going to toss 2 of them at you today. This segment is brought to us by Nitro Performance Bass Boats. And Willie Ward asks this question through our BassEdge Instagram account. What is the best way to catch fish after heavy rains and thunderstorms in the late summer?
That's a good one. It really depends on what kind of lake you're on. Some of these lakes have really good runoff, whether it's in a back of a pocket or culvert or anything like that. If you can get around any kind of moving water, that's the key to doing that. And then you've also got a deal that kind of goes on some of the lakes that I live on that's power plant lakes. After these rains, usually this time of year, they're not running much current at all. So if we get a day or two with some pretty good rain and a couple of heavy thunderstorms, they'll run just a little bit more water. So those are the 2 things I kind of look for. Either fishing up closer to a dam if you have one. If not, I kind of go towards the back of a creek where I might get just a little bit of runoff from the recent storms.
Do you feel like through that process, there's any bait selections that you could toss, Willie, that might be, working, that you find more effective post a heavy rain or thunderstorm as far as bait selection?
Yeah, usually a swim jig. If I'm fishing real shallow, if I do find some water coming into the lake, wherever it is, usually a swim jig. And usually, it's weird that the shad will find those areas too real quick. I don't know how they do it, but you'll go into an area the week before or even just a couple of days prior to a big storm and not really see much bait or anything going on, but you get a couple of good thunderstorms move through the area and it seems like the bait just shows up. I guess it just cools that top 6 or 8, 10 inches of water off, and they'll find that little bit of current wherever it is. Shadow finding, and of course the bass will be there with them. But usually a swim jig is probably my go-to bait for this time of year, fishing that way.
Good stuff. Okay, the next question came through our website, BassEdge.com, and it was from Jaron Brindley. Jaron's out of Ohio. He says, I recently joined a bass club that fishes a derby at a different local lake each month. I'm not familiar with the majority of these bodies of water. Can you explain, like I'm 5 years old, how to practice for a new lake? What should a day of practice look like? I'm tired of getting my butt kicked, he says.
That's another tough one. I can go a lot of different ways. The best thing I can tell you is the lakes that you're not familiar with, don't try to run around. It being a club tournament, it's only going to be a one-day tournament, so don't try to run around. Stay close. You can stay close just to the boat ramp that you're taking out of, because usually there's, a lot of tournaments go out of there, so there's a population of fish right there close. So stay close, and something like that, I'll try to narrow it down to no more than 4 rods out on my deck during the tournament day, and I'll take whatever the 4 best confidence baits I've got, and I'll just stick with those. Stay close to the boat ramp, and just pay attention to what's going on. If you see fish schooling out behind you or anything, just be real vigilant of what's going on, and just don't run around a bunch.
Josh, I love that feedback because, and feel free to chime in here, but I know Jaron jokes about explaining like he's 5 years old, but you almost want to think of it like you are 5 years old. And I can remember, Kurt and I talked about riding our bikes and taking a 2-piece pole and a handful of tackle to go to the river and, fish for whatever would bite. And that's almost literally, kind of being in a bass club as you're learning. That's what you want to do. Stay close to the boat ramp, grab a handful of baits that covers the different areas of the water column and really dissect that area out, because chances are you're probably going to get a bite. And once you get that bite, then you can start building on that. Would you agree?
100%. Just pay attention and just simplify things as much as you can. I actually did that this year on the Elite. I tried to simplify everywhere we went. I didn't have, especially come tournament day, I don't think I ever had more than about 5 rods out on my deck. And most of the time I could have probably got away with 2. So just simplifying that will also simplify everything in your head, what's going on, thoughts. And so that kind of shows on the water too, is you just fish a little bit more confidently and you keep the same baits in the water and you don't start scrambling around. That's just kind of the way I go about it.
I'll throw in there too, just keeping it fundamental, just think before you get to the lake, what are the seasonal patterns, take a stab at where you think they're going to be from a behavioral standpoint, and then adjust based on what you see conditionally in the water, just like Josh was saying. Keep it simple, and that should lead you to that first bite, and then hopefully 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and on.
That's right. You're just not going to get many bites this time of year, so if you spend a lot of time trying to experiment with different baits and different areas, you might have missed the window that you were going to catch 2 or 3 fish on during that time. So just keeping it real simple is a big key.
Great stuff, Josh. I appreciate you actually tackling 2 questions on this episode. Kind of got some overtime out of you, and certainly I know that our listeners appreciate it as well. Willie and Jaron, we need you to do one more thing, and that is to simply log on to BassEdge.com, click the Claim Your Prize tab, fill out the information, let us know that you heard Josh answer your questions right here on episode 360, and we will get the BassEdge gifts sent directly to you.
And listeners out there, keep firing in those questions to the show. Getting a lot more feedback on that Instagram account. We appreciate that. Keep shooting in those questions either through the IG, Facebook, or on the website, BassEdge.com. Simply click the Ask the Pros tab. Your question could be heard on the show, and we're going to send you a great little gift.
Well, Josh, we certainly appreciated spending time with you. Thanks for carving out time. and getting to know you a little bit better. Before we close the segment down, any final thoughts for BassEdge Nation?
Man, I just appreciate you having me on, and I'm going to keep tuning in, and it's real, very informational, and y'all guys do a really good job.
Hey, Josh, man, I appreciate it. Congrats on all your success this year, man. It was great to see. Awesome getting to know you, a little bit better here through BassEdge Radio, and thanks for being a part of it. Best of luck in 2022. And everybody stay tuned for more. Right after this short break, we're going to close down BassEdge Radio episode 360. Y'all hang on.
You know the importance of protecting your investments, so why use anything else other than the original and toughest DIY keel protector for your boat, Megaware KeelGuard. Grinding sand, abrasive rocks, and concrete ramps are no match for our exclusive contoured edge and patented technology. Megaware KeelGuard keel protectors are made tough and made to stick. Their do-it-yourself installation takes less than an hour, providing the longest-lasting, most dependable keel protection for your boat, guaranteed for life. Developed specifically by boat builders offering the best keel protection in the industry. Also from Megaware KeelGuard, Skeg Guard, Flex Step Pro, and Pontoon Guard. So give your boat the performance edge. Put on the protection the pros pick. Megaware KeelGuard.
The PowerPole Charge Marine Power Management Station is the most advanced system of its kind available on the market. It does the work of 3 devices, a traditional battery charger, a charge on the run, and an emergency start system, all in one compact unit. The Charge lets you run your boat's accessories the way you want to run them by allowing you to monitor and control your power usage through the PowerPole app. It automatically devotes power to the batteries that need it the most for maximum efficiency. The new Charge from PowerPole. Power where you need it, power how you need it, power when you need it.
Be at home with nature with nature-inspired art, decor, and gifts by Wild Wings at wildwings.com. Explore art prints and canvas wraps of bass, trout, walleye, muskie, and more by acclaimed artists like Mark Cicino.
I primarily paint underwater scenes of game fish, and usually in a fishing situation, going after prey or going after a lure or a fly. I get asked sometimes whether I like fishing better or artwork. It would be tough to give either of them up. I can't really think of a good reason to give either up, so I'm going to stick with them.
Make your home, office, or cabin show off your passion for angling. Visit wildwings.com/BassEdge and sign up for an exclusive offer to BassEdge listeners of 10% off your next order. Give something special to your loved one and be at home with nature. Visit wildwings.com/BassEdge. That's wildwings.com/BassEdge to get 10% off your next order of nature-inspired art, decor, and gifts by Wild Wings.
Kurt, ironically, we opened the show, talking about where I'm heading here in the next couple of days, and that is on Lake of the Ozarks and potentially the shallow bite, not so much perhaps a deep bite, but it might still be there. Josh's conversation really resonated with me and kind of just reemphasized, okay, I'm thinking along the right terms of what I'm going to head into. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. Let's throw out some bullet points on that conversation with the fishing tips for hitting the water right now. And bullet point number 1, big bite's going to be important. Josh feeling like, and I do as well, I see it on Lake Amistad all the time. Super shallow, man. These fish get crazy shallow. If you think, there's no way a fish could be back there, there's probably one back there. Like literally, that's when you know there's one back there.
Yeah.
When you see all this shallow water and you think, I'm going to turn my trolling motor around, or I'm kicking up dirt, or that's where you need to make that extra long cast into that area. The secondary thing, which we kind of breezed over a little bit in the interview, was the talk about he mentioned brush piles around docks and kind of that, what I would consider that transition from deep to shallow. Where are those stopping points? You mentioned that as well, Aaron, and what your thought process was for Lake of the Ozarks, and Josh reiterated that, dock fishing, finding those subtle pieces of cover between the deep and shallow, right? Whether it's a lay down log, that comes off a steep bank before it runs back into a flat pocket, or, some brush, some isolated brush on the corner of a dock or underneath a dock, or it could be a patch of grass that, is in some transition zone that, a fish or two will hang on. What we do notice, Aaron, is that it doesn't seem anywhere you're going to catch a lot of fish over and over, making the same targeted cast, unless it's schooling bass, right? Schooling bass, you're going to see those where you can, maybe catch 4, 5, 6 fish, in an area, or by sticking to a cove or a pocket because the bait has moved back in there and maybe, started to ball up into the middle or something of that nature. But everywhere else, it's kind of going to be a onesie here, onesie there. Move, to a different, maybe a bite, fish 3 pockets in a row, no bites. And then, or 3 docks in a row, no bites. And then also, boom, you get another bite. So it's going to be one of those deals where you're just putting your head down, fishing as hard as possible and looking for those super shallow bites. And I like Josh's point of real shallow, early, and then real shallow, kind of more midday. And
Absolutely.
Then maybe hitting those isolated pieces in between.
Yes, yeah. Essentially, you're looking for those rest areas along the I-35 corridor, Dallas to Amistad, right, where somebody's going to stop off on a piece of grass or a piece of brush. And then also even Denny brought it up. Denny Brower, the last episode, when he was talking about sometimes they will stack up on those main lake points if current is being drawn. But once they shut that down, then those fish scatter. So regardless, great interview. Appreciate you organizing.
Great to have Josh on the show. Yeah,
for sure. And in the meantime, everybody stay on top of all things BassEdge through all of our social media and certainly through BassEdge.com. Don't forget the BassEdge.com store. Many things going on there. Keep sending in those questions. But in the meantime, Kurt and I, we will be on hiatus until our next episode, which will be October 1st. And we will be talking about more heading into the fall fishing. We appreciate everybody tuning us in right here on Bass Edge Radio. For Kurt Dove, I am Aaron Martin. Have a great week, everybody.
The Edge is presented by Megaware KeelGuard. For more information on Bass Edge or to shop at the Bass Edge online store, visit BassEdge.com and be sure to join Kurt Dove and Aaron Martin right here on another episode of The Edge, brought to you in part by Nitro Boats, Lucas Oil, ProtectTheHarvest.com, Mercury Marine, PowerPole, and Transport Graphics.